So stop making trade-offs based on vibes. Make your trade-offs based on real data. And that starts by knowing what you want to accomplish. And the best time to think about it is in your 30s. You've got years ahead of you for compounding, taking advantage of investing, course correcting mistakes that you made in your 20s, resetting your money habits, and setting yourself up for long-term success.
Who the f am I to tell you what to do with your money?
My name is Priya, currently managing millions of hardworking dollars. Enough foreplay. Let's talk
Money.
welcome to the F word. Smart money.
No bull.
Hey guys, Priya here. Welcome back to the F word, the podcast for high-earning 30-somethings who are ready to stop winging it with their money and make it actually start working for them. Today's episode is about something that we talk about all the time at Stash Wealth. Your 30s are the most financially defining decade of your life. You might not realize it yet, but this is not only the decade where the most important financial decisions of your life are being made, but the ones that will impact and shape the decades to come. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is why your 30s. When it comes down to it, your 20s are excusable. Any mistakes you make in your 20s, you still have time to fix. Whereas when you hit your 40s, it's a lot harder to course correct. So many decisions and money habits have been ingrained in your day-to-day life and practices that course correcting in your 40s becomes very, very difficult. So the 30s, not only are they a time when you can fix the mistakes you made in your 20s, they're also a time in your life where you're making the most critical financial decisions that set us up for the rest of our life, right? It's a major inflection point. So I said you're making some of the biggest financial decisions in your life. Maybe family, maybe partner, maybe job, maybe parent care, maybe lifestyle. They're no longer the someday or down the road decisions. They're the right now decisions. Here's a great example. Fidelity did a study that found that the person you marry has the single greatest long-term impact on your financial life. I was actually listening to a podcast the other day. It's Diary of a CEO. If you haven't listened to those episodes, they're awesome. Stephen Bartlett is the host. And he interviewed Kevin O'Leary. And Kevin was talking about a book that he wrote a couple of years ago where he essentially interviewed some of the biggest divorce attorneys in the world. And they found out that the number one cause of divorce wasn't infidelity. 90%, according to his research, was attributed to financial stress. So picking the right partner, which usually happens in your 20s, 30s, maybe early 40s, is absolutely vital to get right. Make sure they have their financial shit together. Or make sure you get your financial shit together. When you think about it in a relationship, you're approaching, why do we get into a relationship? We get into a relationship so we can approach life as a team, so we can have a partner in crime, not only for raising a family, but for, going out in the world and being able to accomplish things, do things, experience things together. So your partner's debt, not that debt is bad, but their debts, their habits, their mindset, their goals all directly shape your ability to build wealth. You're doing a lot of really big things in your 30s. You might be buying your first home, which is likely going to be the biggest purchase of your life so far. Maybe you're getting into a relationship with somebody who's already bought real estate, paying off student loans, starting or growing a family. Like I said, career pivot, launching your own business. That's a very common one. A lot of people decide that after their 20s, they want to be a consultant, work for themselves, be their own boss. That definitely shapes your ability to store and grow wealth. Another big one that kind of doesn't get talked about until the time comes, but managing aging parents or navigating an inheritance. And then this one happens quite naturally, but upgrading your lifestyle, whether it's travel or your wardrobe or your hobbies, all of a sudden, without a clear system, you're spending as much as you're earning. And how does that impact your opportunity when you're in your 30s? Okay, so it's a lot, and there's no one path. But what you do in your 30s determines whether your money works for you or just goes to cover your bills. So, with that, I want you to think of your 30s as your financial fork in the road. It's the opportunity to either stay on the right path or get on the right path. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is to go a little bit deeper into the effect your partner has on your ability to build wealth, because this is one of the most impactful decisions you'll make to impact your ability to grow and accumulate wealth, not just for the sake of accumulation, but also so it can allow you to achieve the lifestyle that you want to achieve, whether that's an early retirement or an upgraded lifestyle, whatever it is that you want to accomplish. If you don't consider your partner and their money story, you'll turn around in a few years and think, wow, I wish I thought about this sooner. Or gave the decision of the partner I pick the weight it deserves when it comes to their money habits. Not saying that you can't marry someone that's a hot mess with their money, but you're going to want to know the trade offs. So let's go a little deeper into the relationship piece, because relationships are emotional and money is emotional, and that combo can just lead to a lot of very interesting things. It sounds a little unromantic, but at the end of the day, a partnership, a marriage, if you choose to go that route, is a alignment of resources. It's the coming together of two people with the hopes that they're stronger together. And that includes your financial potential. I'm not saying marry for money, but I'm not saying marry for money. At Stash Wealth, we often remind people that the partner they pick will have more influence on their wealth than even their job title might. It is very important to understand if you guys are aligned on your financial goals. With the lifestyle goals dictate what your savings goals should be, right? Like, we don't believe in saving for the sake of saving. You shouldn't just be dumping money into a savings account somewhere. Why? Is it for a lifestyle you're trying to achieve in the future? Is it for some big financial goal like buying a house or putting kids into college or early retirement? There's many financial goals. We've seen a ton. And actually, we have a couple episodes where I talk about some of the most fun and interesting financial goals our clients are planning for. But needless to say, it is an important conversation to have and to understand whether you and your partner are aligned on the things that you guys want to accomplish and experience. Another one, and this is kind of a big one because I know we always see that one person loves to play the CFO in a relationship, but it is absolutely critical that both of you understand your financial plan. If one of you is carrying the weight to execute and lead the conversations, it's okay. The other person might say, like, I'm not interested. I don't want to get roped into this. Like, you're better at this than I am. We see it all the time. That's fine. But you should at least understand what decisions are being made and why, even if you don't want to participate in the execution of those decisions. Just know that it's important for both of you to understand what your plan is. And on that same topic of a financial plan, the reason it's so critical is because it helps you guys understand whether you're set up to win together or whether money is actually creating some silent tension that can mount and turned into the kind of stress that ultimately is insurmountable. I give this example often, and I think it's just a really easy one to relate to. I remember a long, long time ago, we had a couple, classic opposites attract, spender married to the saver. And the saver was building up a ton of resentment against the partner. And it was partially because the saver was saving, because buying a home was a very important goal to them. And they couldn't understand why the spender was just spending away their money without any regard for the fact that the idea of buying a home was really important to their partner. Well, come to find out, they had never really shared the fact that buying a home was so important to them. And I find this a lot. Like, when one partner doesn't know or isn't aware of what the other partner's goals are, yeah, where is the motivation to help? Obviously, why wouldn't I buy another pair of shoes? That's me. When I don't know what my trade-offs are. Now, if I realize, oh my gosh, my partner wants us to buy a home and I want that too. Yeah, okay, wait, I am going to think twice about where I'm spending my money. It's so difficult to motivate yourself to do the proper financial thing when you don't understand what the trade-offs are. And the easiest way to understand what the trade-offs are to have a financial plan that spells out what the goals are. Is it buy a home in 3 years? Is it buy a ski house? Is it upgrade vacations so you guys can take bougier trips to Europe? Are you looking to support family members, start a family? I mean, the list is endless, but it is, again, very difficult when your partner is seemingly destroying your ability to do these things. And come to find out, it's just as simple as telling them what you're trying to accomplish. So make sure that you're set up to win together, and you're not building up resentment or tension because you haven't articulated what your goals are. And it's important to understand what your partner's goals are. You have to share what you want. And then obviously very romantic, you guys need to talk about what your joint goals are. Like, what do you want to accomplish as a couple? Because joint goals actually force an honest conversation about why you guys are even saving in the first place. Okay, so to wrap that up, make sure you have an honest conversation about goals and values around money, habits, assess what your resources are before you decide to join your entire life together. I've said this before and I'm not like necessarily proud of it, but we have seen couples break up during the stash plan process, which is our proprietary planning process that we take 30 somethings through. Um, you know, not the best feeling, but then again, I guess there is a silver lining to suggest that you find out you're not aligned sooner rather than later. Hey, quick gut check. If everyone around you is buying houses, upgrading jobs, or investing confidently and you're still winging it with your money, go to stashwell.com and let's fix it before another year slips by. Okay, and the last thing about your 30s being absolutely critical when it comes to setting yourself up for financial freedom, financial success, however you define it, is that this is the time, and I've talked about this, where kids come into the picture, your careers are stepping up, and your lifestyles are escalating as well. You might be wondering, are you living a lifestyle you can actually afford? So, having kids, I cannot emphasize enough how having children changes everything, including your finances, especially your finances. There's diapers, there's daycare, there's private school, there's the deposit for private school. The cost of raising a child is high, which makes the cost of not planning ahead even higher. In your 30s, we see major career growth for people. They go from making good money to making more money than they ever imagined. And what goes up with it? Their lifestyle, right? Lifestyle inflation, lifestyle creep, whatever you want to call it. We see it all the time. One of the biggest questions people will ask us is, are we living a lifestyle we can actually afford? Can I do this? And what's it costing me? Without a system, you will inevitably overspend without realizing it. You might also oversave without realizing it. We've seen so many high earners stash away so much money into their retirement accounts, locking it away. They can't touch it for decades, completely shortchanging the leverage they have in the short term. So it's not just about, overspending, it's also about oversaving. Or related, but kind of even worse in my opinion than oversaving in a retirement account, is sitting on cash just in case, emergency fund, whatever you call it, instead of investing. Stockpiling cash because you don't know how much you actually need in case of emergency or how to think about that strategically. At the end of the day, you should have a stockpile of cash, but that should be your first line of defense, not your only line of defense. And if you're just stashing away as much cash as humanly possible because it's your only line of defense, you're robbing yourself of your wealth potential. So stop making trade offs based on vibes. Make your trade offs based on real data. And that starts by knowing what you want to accomplish. And the best time to think about it is in your 30s. You've got years ahead of you for compounding, taking advantage of investing, course correcting mistakes that you made in your 20s, resetting your money habits, and setting yourself up for long-term success. A lot of times what we're doing is just helping clients get real about what their money can do for them, building in that lifestyle cushion, that guilt-free spending, as well as long-term strategy. And then ultimately helping them avoid the trap of making decisions from stress instead of clarity. So if you're in your 30s, now's the time to get your financial shit together. If you felt overwhelmed by how many financial decisions you're facing right now, know this. Financial advisors are no longer just reserved as a smart decision super rich people are able to make. You're in the most defining decade of your financial life, and there is no shame in calling in help, especially help that's so specialized, it gets you richer even quicker. Before I let you go, I want to tell you about a quick study done by Vanguard a couple years ago called the Advisor Alpha Study. So this is a very widely cited research study that was conducted about the wealth management industry and specifically the value of a financial advisor. That's what alpha is. What is the value an advisor can bring to a client relationship? And it surfaced that following wealth management best practices with an advisor can yield 3% in net return. So, like after fees, the average advisor can deliver about 3% in added value and come from the following best practices. So the first one is behavioral coaching. It is estimated that 1.5% per year gets added in helping clients avoid making emotional decisions like panic selling during a downturn. Portfolio construction. This is the second one, estimated to add an additional 1% per year. And I'm not talking about stock picking. I'm talking about focusing on strategic aspects of wealth management, like asset allocation and asset location. And then the third best practice is actual wealth management is estimated at delivering an additional about 0.5% per year. And that encompasses things like rebalancing or drawdown strategies, which you don't have to worry about till later because you're in your 30s and you're not drawing down, you're accumulating. This study was done assuming a comparison with the average individual investor managing their own portfolio in the quote, right way. I'm not saying you have to use an advisor, but I think a lot of people out there are talking about the fact that advisors charge a fee, and they do, but you get something for it. If you want help, if you want someone to help you build, if you want the right plan, you don't have to do it alone or in the dark. All right, guys, we've hit the best bite portion of the podcast where I talk about my absolute best bite of the last week. So this one I'm kind of scared to talk about because this restaurant is so fabulous. I really don't want anybody to know about it, but I'm sharing it with you. The restaurant is in, I guess I would call it the West Village. It's called Kike Crudo, and it's walk-in only. There's like maybe 20 seats, and it's mostly seafood. The freshest seafood. It was so amazing. Every dish I got was fantastic. But my absolute best bite of the last week was a dish called the torta. I'm going to butcher this. The torta de jaiba. Torta de jaiba. It was a little flat torta. What's a torta? A tortilla. It was a crispy little chip with the most delicious crab salad on it, sliced radishes, a little bit of like an avocado puree, some chilies on there. It was so good. I have to go back ASAP. I can't wait to go back. Enjoy. Okay. If this episode helped you rethink your priorities or just helped you feel seen, share it with a friend. And hit follow so you don't miss what's coming next. All right. Thanks for listening to The F Word. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to The F Word with Priya Malani. If you like what you heard, hit subscribe wherever you're listening and leave us a review while you're at it. We're approval junkies. Don't forget, you can find a ton of great resources, content, courses, and other freebies at stashwealth.com. Now, for the capital S stuff our lawyers want us to say. StashWealth is a registered investment advisor. Content presented is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to make an offer or solicitation for any specific securities, product, service, or strategy. Consult with a qualified investment advisor, that's us, before implementing any strategy. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. There, we said it.
Did I have that up?